It's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk. We got Jacanazo from Clan TKO and his T95 FE 4201 ABC 123 overpowered prize tank. But that's not what we're here for today. We're not here to bash the Chieftain and its ridiculousness. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to talk about how dumb this tank is. We're not going to talk about how overpowered. No, not going to happen. We're not doing that at all. We're not going to talk about what a joke it is, how unfair it is. We're not going to do any of that kind of thing. What we're actually going to talk about is reactions. Malinovka, critical terrain reactions. It is one thing to know what the critical terrain is on a map based on initial positioning, based on the setup, based on the map and the mode. It's quite another to know then what. Because that's always really the question, right? Generally, I would say most people on Malinovka would say get the hill. And really, for me, it doesn't change much whether it's encounter or standard mode. You got to get up there and get the hill and keep them from having the high ground. At least neutralize them. Ideally, take the hill. The question then becomes then what? Because I see a mistake made on this map more often than not when somebody wins the hill. And I think most of you are going to see what's coming here. But in an effort to sort of get more people on board so they kind of understand it, we'll do this video and we'll talk a little bit about it. Getting up to the hill. So Jacanazo comes up here. He says, I had this game on Malinovka. We got to the top, won the top. And then I had to convince people not to what? Not to what, folks? Rage down right into the teeth of the campers. So if we look at how this setup is, and we can kind of start to get an idea of how this might go just based on looking at the setup. Su-130, T-30, Conway, Badger, all TDs. Generally, TD players are going to try to play them that way. Now, you might expect potentially the T-30 would come up here. It's a good place for a T-30. Also, maybe the Badger might come up the hill. You also have some Tier 8s. Tier 8s tend to not come up the hill. Look, these are all 9s and 10s right here, right? Except for the M4 49, who has pretty good armor. And we've got him stuffed, so we do have to be careful. We're already taking hits from a Tiger 2 back there, right? He's back sniping from the trees down there. We got a bunch of turrets. This just cracks me out. Now, we do take some hits. We've lost a few hit points. Somebody got a chunk of us. He shoots in the direction of the Tiger 2. But we are just bouncing like crazy. None of these guys has any hope of putting a shot into... Oh, man, he missed. How does it... What? None of them really has any chance of putting a shot through the turret of this thing. This is a really good spot for the Chieftain. So we're just going to sit here and pick these guys apart. And you got to do that, right? We are kind of coming downhill a little bit, but we're really going to start murdering these guys. Also, we're using this double bush, which I don't even know if he's spotted right now. Just keep that little... Watch him hit this hatch. Oh my gosh. We must be spotted. We just got hit. He's probably spotted the whole time. Another guy goes down. Holy cow, we're just losing. Oh, and he pins the side of the... Oh my gosh. All gold loadout. Poor... Oh my goodness. Just absolutely gunned down. Alright, things look pretty good, right? This is the what about, what now portion of the game. You might go, pretty much won. Just push down and kill him. But what's going on in the south? Nothing good. The Badger's down there. Okay. There's an Emil and Udez and at least a Tiger 2 in the trees. Probably a T-30 and maybe a Conway. There's an object and a Sioux over there, and they're taking on our guy down the south. Instead of boiling over this hill and losing a bunch of hit points trying to push into campers, why don't we just turn around and go take care of the cap. There's the T-30, so he's not really here. And I was a little bit surprised that he was able, or that he moved up here. We're going to actually do some pretty good work with dead hulks. It's going to keep our tank pretty safe right here. Get a shot on this Emil, and he doesn't last long except he disappears behind that bush right there. So the purple guys won down there in the southwest, and now they're starting to threaten the cap. Now you can go through the game and go, well, I'm busy here, not my problem. But this is a situation, and now the enemy team's evened it up a bit. This is really a situation where you can have them sneak one on you, right? yes, you're winning by a bit. Your position is pretty good, but you don't have anybody at cap, and you got to get past the ELC even 90 and some other snipers like the Badger. And I can see right now, Jicanizo is like, all right, how do I get out of this? I need to disengage right here. I need to get back up the hill. People are clicking defend the base. He's turning around, and now he's going to make a run up the hill, and he's going to hope to get away. People are all angry and mad. There's much dissent among the ranks right there. A little bit surprised he didn't get lit, so nobody's really close enough. The rest of the hold down snipers are like rocking back and forth, wondering, hey, who's gonna spawn for me? Well, nobody, dude, because we got to go back to the cap and sort that out. So he's defend the base, and he's trying to convince his team to go that way. This works a lot better often when you're in a good tier 10 tank and you're playing well. People kind of recognize that. If you're in an FV, a lot of people think you at least have some kind of idea what you're doing. I got it, not all the time, but as a general rule, if you're in the top tier tank and you're running a good tank, playing well, people will listen to you or tend to listen to you a little bit more. The 430U got back there first, so good on him. It's a good tank for it. It's got pretty good view range, nice little low slung. Hover medium can get into some of those low spots. Use his turret and kind of hold out long enough to get spotting and find guys. Looks like he's hanging out in the little edge of that pond right there, which is a good spot to be. There's a couple little undulations in the terrain right there that a 430 can use. And now we got the chieftain coming in here going hold down, and all of a sudden now we're finding these guys, and they foolishly are kind of pushing him. It's like, what are you doing? He dies. That's what he's doing. So we come all the way back here. I guess he wasn't quite down in the bottom of the swale there. I don't know if maybe he's moved out since then, because it looked like he was down in the pond for a bit. Now, I don't know if I'd push all the way into here, because there doesn't really seem to be a reason to do this. We're going to keep pushing across. The medium died as well already. And what's funny about this is the repositioning. All right, so the then what question once again. The then what on the top of the hill was, well, let's get off this hill and go clean up the cap. Now the cap is cleaned up. So let's take a look at the situation here. A good portion of the team came back with him. This is the worst nightmare for a purple team right there. The worst nightmare, because you might think, well, we can push into the cap and get something done here. And all of a sudden, they all show back up the cap. And really, all that's left on the enemy team are the campers and passives. And what's left on Chicanizo's team are the active players. Those are mostly all the guys who went up the hill. Right? They went up the hill and won. These are the active players. Now they've all come back to cap, cleaned up the purple team's active players, and now they're working on the passives. And this is the kind of overmatch in terms of skill and gameplay that you want to see. We're in good shape in terms of tanks. We're in decent shape in terms of hit points. Not that all that could be completely trusted, because they could have less hit points than they're showing. But it's exactly where you want to be late game right here, where your good players are still alive, still fighting, and their passives and campers are trying to figure out how to win, because they're just not going to do a very good job of it usually. Badger's been hanging out in the back the whole time. We get missed. That's a good thing. We have a 430U and an FV working together, coming around behind these guys. We have plenty of guys back at the cap dealing with the dudes who are attempting to push. The Badger went back up the hill. There was some comments about we can't lose the hill. I would say that's very true. It's nice that the Badger got up there and is kind of locking it down. He's obviously going to have a hard time getting all the way back to cap. And based on how many guys went back and what happened, he didn't have to. So now he'll just kind of hold the hill. If anybody gets up there, then he'll be able to probably punish them pretty hard. At the very least, he'll be the canary in the coal mine and let the guys know that they've gone up there. So I think he's peeking over the edge. Yeah, there's the Udez. Now he's running around. We missed that. I sort of expected Chicanizo to sort of melt right here, but it looks like their tanks are not in a great position. I think the Udez sensed it. Gets a hit on the run. That's just the accuracy of this thing. It's a little bit silly. Conway's trying to come in. He sort of ignores the 15-16. Says, whatever, dude, hit me once if you want. It doesn't matter. He comes in here, slaps him again, going in for the ram. Takes a hit, but Puts a big crunch on him. He's going to out-reload this guy more than likely. It's a medium tank that gets out-reloaded. But he does get bounced. The good news is the 430U is on step, and he nukes that guy by ramming him. Now, these two are attempting to come back and kill these guys. They know they got trouble behind them. But look, it's already collapsed, right? This move into the backfield came from a different direction they weren't necessarily expecting. Now we're just sneaking shots into the lower plate. Poor Badger has no chance in hell to pin the Chieftain. Another shot into the lower plate. Holy cow, nicely done. And boom. And now all we've got left is that poor, remember the Tiger 2 that was in the trees sniping? He didn't do anything. He didn't move, he didn't react, he just sat in the trees. He might be trying to go up the hill right now, but it looks like he just realized there's a Badger coming after him. And he's just getting absolutely thumped. We're going to add a little bit more damage here. I think we go over 5,000. There we go. Yeah, poor Tiger. Pour, P-O-U-R. It's okay, pour the Tiger. You might be able to pour the Tiger. They're probably all goo in there at this point. 2 kills, 5,297, 4,000 bounce, and 1,795 assist. I'm not going to go into too much. It was a good game. It's a Chieftain. You know, I feel badly. I mean, I know people worked hard to get them, and dudes do really well in them. I don't care. It's completely overpowered. But this game was a great example of decision-making and movement around the map. And you can do the same thing in other tanks, right, other than the FV. Usually it's mediums. This thing kind of has some medium speed, unfortunately, amongst its other sins. It has some pretty decent speed, but it was really good decision-making. Up to the hill. Let's not push into the Tiger's teeth right there. Hey, look, the cap has an issue. Back south to the cap, clean that up, and then, hey, let's just change the direction of the attack. Come across that field. They're not going to expect that. And you can see that they were completely in a kerfuffle, and it was a classic example of watching the good active players who remained alive absolutely obliterating the passive bad players who camp in spots and sit there. Because that's almost always what happens. Almost always what happens. Those players will get some damage. They'll farm a little bit, but nearly always. That's a terrible way. It's not nearly always, but it is the major. Let's put it the majority of the time. The good players are going to win that. Let's call it 60-40. And really, at the end of the day, that's kind of the win rate percentage we're talking about, right? The 45, 48 percenters who sit in the back are going to lose more often than the 55, 60 percenters who do what happened right there. That was a game that was completely within the reach of both teams based on tanks and how that game went. But based on how the players played it, ends up at the end being a pretty solid, clear victory for all the active players. All right, cool. That's all I've got. Thanks for sending that in, man. Well done. Good game. We'll see you.